Thank you everyone for joining. Quick introduction. My name's Tommy Vincent. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Hub Analytics, and I'm your host today. So I have done a couple of these. So if we've done this together before, nice to see you again. Nice to meet you again. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to run through, like I said, pretty quickly, the 3 mistakes that are holding bookkeepers back from 6-figure advisory. And so we'll go through this fairly quickly. Couple of things, I think a little history on who we are, because who are we in terms of what do we know about what's holding people back? So this is a little blurb about what Hub Analytics does. We are a client reporting platform that helps financial professionals streamline internal processes and transform client reports. But a bit about our background, because I think that's important. I think that kind of context is important when we're thinking about what do we know about this. Hub Analytics, long story short, was initially started inside of an accounting firm that was a little bit bigger. It was about, the company itself had about 250 employees. They were doing about 35 million in revenue, but it was grown organically over a 15 to 18 year period, like right in between there. And the reality is that they were very successful over time. And so some of the core investors here in this technology have a deep background in running accounting firms, and they know the whole process from bookkeeping to controllership to the CFO side of the equation. So we think we know a thing or two about how to get out of the rut of especially the compliance work and get you over to that hump to create a really successful business for yourselves. And I know that that's what we're all striving for. So without further ado, I will jump into this. Are there any questions before I get started? Anything you're hoping to get out of this in the next 30 minutes or so? Feel free to shoot things out in the chat. I will do my best to respond and work with it. But let's see, I'm not seeing anything come in now, so I will jump into this. Okay, perfect. So let's kick this off. Mistake number 1. This is the one thing you all know so well already. I know you already know it. It's spending too much time on compliance work. We know it. We're trying hard to get out of it. We're thinking about hiring people. We have hired people. We're looking at part-time folks, whatever, to help with that compliance work so we can up-level out of it. I get it. And I know you get it too. Did you know that the average bookkeeper spends over 70% of their week in the compliance work? Obviously very necessary, not the high-value work. And again, I think we know this already. This is based on 2 different recent reports, one from Carbon, another one from Zero. And I think it just holds true from a lot of previous reports as well. But yeah, just spending way too much time in compliance. It is probably the lowest value work that you can probably get your hands into, right? It's the bookkeeping is necessary. In fact, it is literally the table stakes in terms of you've got to have good data. That's where all good advisory starts. It starts with good data. But man, how do we get it? How do we get there faster and better, right? So what do? Okay, we're spending 70% of our time in compliance work. How do I not spend 70% of my time, but maintain the same level of quality that our customers are already used to getting from us? So a couple of thoughts here. Number 1, you can automate the data entry itself. There's so many ways to do this today. You can encourage your customers to use smart credit cards, right? Like Ramp, or gosh, take your pick. There's seriously like 10 out there in the market at least. These credit cards, when your customers are using these things, it can pretty much auto categorizes and auto does the data entry a lot, especially in QBO. If you're not encouraging your customers to try to do this, definitely try. This is only helping people. They offer good rewards. It's actually pretty great alternatives to traditional bank cards and all of that. So definitely do that. And try to find technology as well, right? Anywhere where you see repetitive tasks or maybe some kind of standard operating procedure that you maybe have written down, even if it's on Post-it notes, something that happens every single month, that stuff is ripe for automation. Just always be thinking, gosh, there must be a way to automate this. There must be a solution out there to do this, because honestly, there probably is. So that's pro tip number one. And then pro tip number two, the compliance part. Pro tip is use Hub Analytics Data Diagnostics Checker. Shamelessly, we will be plugging ourselves through this presentation. We appreciate you. But on the compliance part, one part that's I think very interesting that we've learned, and we talk to bookkeepers, CPA firms, CAS firms, whatever you name it, fractional CPOs, all day, every day, 10, 20 calls every single day. And we picked up a lot in that time working with people in the field. Here's one thing we've learned from bookkeepers in particular. Most people know that they want to get out of the compliance work. Their first step is usually to hire. And maybe it's a one or two part-time people. And here's the deal. Most of the folks that are going to be hired, they're going to be more junior than yourselves, naturally, earlier in their career. And when that happens, one thing that gets overlooked often, and it's totally fair to be overlooked, but it gets people, which is once they hire a couple of folks, they think they're in the clear and they need to start working on their business, which is great. That's what you want to do. But what they overlook is that they have to go and check the work. So you got two, maybe one or two or three bookkeepers doing a bunch, and now you have more accounts because you have more capacity, but you become the bottleneck. And that's what you want to look out for. That becomes its own trap where you start having to check the books of part-time bookkeeper number one and part-time bookkeeper number two and number three. And that becomes its own new bottleneck. And that can drag you right back into the work that you didn't want to be doing in the first place. This is actually why, this is in the spirit of why we developed data diagnostics. So if you have anything that looks like this, a process for income statements, a process for statement of cash flows, a process for the balance sheet, whether it be written down or not written down, you want to move to an automated compliance checker. This is ours. I believe there's a couple others in the market as well. Ours is a 150-point inspection engine, and it spans 17 different categories of accounting. So if your bookkeeper says, hey, I'm all good, I've done the books for so-and-so for Global Trust, you would say, hey, go double check your work in Hub. They click a button within literally seconds. We will scan all these 17 different categories, 150 points across those 17 categories, and we will flag any anomaly in the data. So that means anything that looks out of historical trend, like an outlier data point, we will flag that. We will also flag absolutely everything that looks out of compliance with best practices for accounting, right? That's GAAP is included in that, as well as other generally accepted best practices. So all that happens in seconds. So your bookkeepers start to be able to check their own work before it gets to you. And that's really saving folks a ton of time. All right, moving on, moving fast. I will check, actually. I'm going to stop and I'm just going to check any questions. Shoot them out in the chat. I will double check. I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but we will keep going here. Moving on to mistake number two, reporting that tells, not advises. And this is a big one. This is where I think we really separate, I think, bookkeeping from advising. Are you sending QBO reports still? Are you sending spreadsheets and pivot tables? Are you sending content without context? These are, I think, key indicators, and most people, most bookkeepers we talk to are, and that's fine, right? It is what it is. But if we're trying to get to a six-figure advisory practice, we've got to up-level the client deliverables. We have to, and I think some of it is super insightful and actionable for your customers. Some of it is a little bit of perception is reality, right? What you want to create is a perception that this is a premium service. You're not just the average bookkeeper. I've got a premium deliverable. And you might say, my clients never read those. That's totally fair. That's why you have the call after you send the deliverable, because most entrepreneurs are super busy, just like we are. You guys are super busy running your own businesses, and it's hard to read through a good report. However, for you, it's almost a piece of marketing. It's a piece of marketing and sales collateral to have your client deliverables be premium. Most financial reports today are still looking backwards. They're still doing the rear view mirror approach. Here's what happened in your business. If you really want to deliver something that adds value for your customers, it's always about so what and what now. So what? Okay, yes, we did this last quarter. And what? What do I do now? That's always going to be the question, just like you running your own business. That's the question that you have for yourself. Okay, great. Now, how do I get there? So what? How do I get there? And this is what we want to be delivering for our customers. Um, Again, you want to be positioning yourself as a strategic advisor, not just a technician. Because technicians are, our dime a dozen, and there's a lot of technology these days that can do some of that technician work. But we want to up level ourselves here. Um, Here's again automated advanced reporting and hub analytics. I think the key point here, folks, is you want to. One of the bottlenecks is most people aspire to creating premium client deliverables, but they're held back by things. They're held back by tools. They're held back by time constraints. Those are the two biggest ones we hear. And a lot of folks we talk to are still like, yeah, I don't know. I could push this into Excel. And then, yes, I can go and do the visualization within Excel. But then, like, I kind of want it to look nice. So I'm going to screenshot that and I'm going to go put it into PowerPoint. And it becomes a bear. It just becomes a total bear. And all of that is just an obstacle for you. And in the past, the way around that was to hire more. Like if you're a CAS firm, you got 10 employees, 20, 30, 40, 50 employees, you could start to up level your premium deliverables. That's not the case anymore. Even with Hub Analytics, you can click a button and literally generate a super rich financial package that's totally customized to every single customer, tracking things like KPIs. You can have dynamic dashboards, benchmarking, scorecards, really intuitive design, really professional. Again, this is a sales and marketing piece of collateral. It's also hopefully something that's valued and actionable by your customers as well, right? And we want to up level the practice here. Any questions about that? I see a chat in here. I see. Thank you for the webinar. Can we get the recording later on? You will get the recording later on. The Successful Bookkeeper team will make sure that goes out for everybody. So thank you for the question. All right. Mistake number 3, waiting for the client to ask for advice. Okay. This is a big one actually, because I think that a lot of us are more oriented to being of service. Hey, do you have a question? I got you, right? But to be an advisor, you really have to take more of a proactive stance. Now, why aren't we doing this today? There's a bunch of reasons for this. I think there's a fear of like kind of overstepping. That's one that's actually not on here. I think time pressure in general. You got to go back to 70% of our time is spent in compliance work. So we don't have the time. We don't have the time to sit there and meditate, so to speak, on somebody's financials and think through all the things that could be there. So you need help. I think, again, tool limitations, right? There's nothing helping you. You got to go sort through the raw data of the income statement and the balance sheet and the cash flow statement and kind of look at those and kind of look at the customer's business and figure out what we might be doing. But you need help here. I think unclear expectations and even lack of confidence in insight delivery. It's for a lot of us, this is new, right? It's getting out there and kind of pushing ourselves to our limit. Now, I think, again, with Hub Analytics, we've got automated insights as well baked into the actual reporting as well as outside of the reporting. But this is a big one, folks, because this is new. This was not available 2 or 3 years ago. And what I mean by that is AI, right? We can leverage artificial intelligence to do analysis now, not just like black and white Excel analysis, but like thoughtful, creative analysis, right? And that's the big difference between AI and traditional automation. And I don't mean to get too techie here. My whole background is in Silicon Valley. So if I do, I apologize. But what I'm trying to talk about is automation has been around for a long time. And it's all about triggers and black and white, and like you could just trigger workflows. Automation with AI is a little bit different because it's creative. It can actually come up with ideas for companies to better and to improve revenue, to increase revenue, to improve their bottom line, and all these things. We have woven this into our platform personally, so that every time you run a financial package, you will see a section on here. You can kind of see it in the top right, profitability recommendations. So, what could this company be doing to improve their bottom line every single month? And These are not meant to be fully baked, sent out directly to your customers, although they could be actually. But the best results are when people use these, right? We want to help you get 90% of the way there and think through and go, oh, that's a really good idea. Let me add a little bit to that. Let me take that a little bit further. And you can use these to work with your customers to help them improve their business. This is how you can start to bring ideas to the table on a proactive basis versus your customers asking for advice. And oftentimes, even good customers aren't going to know to ask. They're not going to know what to ask. So we got to kind of start doing the advisory work to be held up as an advisor to them. And to do that, you got to be proactive with it. So these are three things that we have seen across our 20 plus years in the accounting space. Just to kind of sum this up, there's a common thread here, everyone. And I'm going to go through this one more time because I think it's worth it and I'm going to go through it faster. But number one is our time is limited, okay? Our current state, and historically, the state of bookkeeping has always been that we're dragged down into this compliance work. Technology today can alleviate that, right? You've got to create more capacity because if you take your current state and you try to layer on an advisory business, it's just gonna be too hard. You're not superhuman, and you shouldn't have to be. But the first step is how do we create more capacity? How do we get more time back in your life so that you can focus on bigger things? So number one, your time is limited. I would be thinking about that constantly. I would also be thinking about this too. Advisory is not a flip of a switch, okay? It's not something that you can just say, okay, here's my client report. We upgraded our client report and now I'm going to charge $1,500. You kind of have to act as if for a little bit, right? But the first step is still automating those current workflows. If you can automate workflows so you're getting more time back, and then you can automate things like a premium client deliverable, and you can start practicing being an advisor. I think that that's really the first step, is just acting as if, just putting it out there, trying things, and making sure you're automating that stuff so that you don't have to build this from scratch. And you do not have to recreate the wheel. You can put something out there that is premium, that's going to add a lot of value to your customers, that's going to add a lot of value to you as well, by automating. And why does this matter? Okay, and why do we want to do this? It's because high value versus low value work. This statistic is not my favorite because it's a little confusing. I will be the first one to say it, but I get what it's saying, which is compliance makes up 90% of the revenue for most bookkeepers. 90% of the revenue, but it only delivers 70% of your profit, right? Advisory, on the other hand, might only be 10% of the revenue, but it can drive 30% of the profit margin. If you can shift more of your revenue to a higher margin product, which means advisory, you're going to be on your way to a six-figure practice in no time. So ultimately, if you want to grow, not by working more, every single bookkeeper I talk to, I'll tell you right now, I would bet 100% of the people on this call, if I said, do you want to have 85 clients paying you $500? Or would you rather have 35 or 40 clients paying you between $1,000 and $2,000? Everyone's going to choose the latter, right? You can always grow your revenue by working more. You can work 70, 80 hours a week, but that's not sustainable, and it's also not scalable, quite literally by definition. So if you want to grow, but not by working more, but by working smarter, in my opinion, in our opinion, it starts with automation. There's so much great technology out there you can use to buy time back, which leads to capacity, which leads to more insights, and it can end with a practice that's really more valuable for you, more scalable, and more fulfilling. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I told you we were going to be fast today, real fast. If you want to get more information about Hub Analytics or see a sample report, go to hub-analytics.com. I should have actually put that on this page, but hub-analytics.com. We can submit a request, and when somebody from our sales team will get back to you, we can send you a sample report, all that good stuff. But I hope this has been valuable for you all today. I will also spend a little bit of time doing some Q&A. All right, anybody have any questions before we all head out and tackle the world? All right, this was great. Yeah, Cindy, my pleasure. Glad to see it was valuable for you. Yes, Mirage, absolutely. We'll get you the recording. Any questions, comments, concerns? Perfect. I'm not seeing anything come in, folks. Thank you for joining us this morning. We will talk to you again soon. Take care.